Have you ever noticed how the more you try to defend yourself, the more people twist your words? It's as though the harder you fight for truth, respect, or justice, the more you end up looking desperate while the real offenders slip away untouched. The more you explain, the more they misunderstand. The more you chase fairness, the more elusive it becomes. It's a frustrating cycle that leaves you feeling drained and misunderstood. But what if I told you that there's a different way to handle it? What if I told you that the moment you stop explaining, stop reacting, and stop chasing, karma starts doing the work for you? It's like a snake biting its own tail. The more it struggles, the deeper the wound. But when it stops fighting, nature takes over, and healing begins. Or think of an echo in the mountains. What you send out eventually comes back to you. That's how karma works. The lies they spread, the harm they cause, it all returns to them in time. They may think they're getting away with it, but while they're busy provoking, deceiving, and manipulating, you have a choice. You can fall into their trap and keep reacting, or you can step back and let karma handle what words never could. When you choose silence, that's when the weight of their actions finally falls back on them. That's when their own energy starts to turn against them. All the negative energy they've sent your way will eventually return to them, and they will face the consequences of their actions. So ask yourself, when do you step back and let karma handle the situation? When you stop fighting, that's when true justice unfolds. Stay with me because the last thought will shift your entire perspective. Let's get started. Number 1, when someone lies about you. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating situations we can face. When someone spreads lies about you, it's one of those moments when every fiber of your being wants to react, to fight back, to clear your name, to make sure everyone knows the truth. The temptation to set the record straight is powerful, but here's the harsh reality. Defending yourself against lies often fuels more drama than it solves. The more you react, the more energy you give to the lie. The more you try to explain, the more people will start to question, even those who had no doubts before. Here's the truth. Some people don't care about what's real. They care about the reaction. The person lying about you isn't looking for the truth. They're looking for control. They want to see you rattled. They want to see you emotional. They want you caught in a battle where your every move becomes proof that the lie has weight. They want to see you struggling to defend yourself, because the more you react, the more you give the lie credibility. The moment you engage, you're playing their game. They're in control, and you're caught in their web. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and philosopher, once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This should be the standard you hold yourself to in moments like these. Others may lie, others may deceive, but their actions do not define you. Your response does. Instead of wasting your energy and your breath defending yourself against falsehoods, let time and truth reveal everything. Because here's what people forget. Lies have an expiration date. Truth, on the other hand, is timeless. It's unshakable. Lies may spread quickly, but the truth has the staying power to endure. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A man I know, let's call him James, was accused of something at work that he never did. Rumors spread, people whispered, and some of his co-workers even distanced themselves from him. James's first instinct was to go around explaining to everyone, trying to make them believe him. But instead of doing that, he chose silence. He kept doing his work, stayed professional, and let his actions speak for themselves. Weeks later, the truth surfaced. The person who had spread the rumors had a history of manipulation and deceit. James didn't have to prove anything. The truth revealed itself. And because he never engaged in the drama or tried to defend himself, his reputation remained intact. So how do you handle situations like this? First, trust in the long game. Lies may spread quickly, but truth lasts longer. The initial chaos may be hard to bear, but in time, people will see the reality for what it is. Second, focus on your integrity. If you know who you are and what you stand for, the opinions of those who believe the lies don't matter. They're not worth your energy. Third, let karma do its job. People who lie about others often expose themselves through their own patterns of behavior. You don't need to chase them down or try to seek revenge. Life will handle it. At the end of the day, your silence is not weakness, it is control. When someone lies about you, don't lower yourself to their level. Stay grounded, stay patient. Keep your dignity intact. And remember, the truth always comes out. When it does, it will speak for itself, and you'll have been the one who stood strong, while those who spread falsehoods will have been exposed for what they are. The longer you hold your ground, the more the truth will shine, and the more you will emerge with your integrity and reputation untouched. Number 2, when someone betrays your trust. Let's talk about one of the hardest lessons in life, dealing with betrayal. Whether it's a friend who turns their back on you, a partner who breaks your trust, or someone you believed in who lets you down, betrayal stings in a way that few things can. The emotional impact is sharp, cutting deep into your sense of self-worth and security. It leaves you questioning not only the other person, but your judgment and ability to trust. The first instinct is often confrontation. You want to demand answers, seek an apology, or make them understand the damage they've caused. But here's the truth. Words won't change a betrayer's nature. If someone was willing to betray you once, chances are they've justified it in their own mind. They've convinced themselves that their actions were necessary, excusable, or even your fault. No amount of reasoning or explanation will alter that. If you try to explain or defend yourself, they'll twist your words. If you try to make them feel guilty, they'll find a way to make you the villain in the story. In the end, confronting them rarely brings the resolution or closure you're hoping for. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca, a great Stoic philosopher, once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." In other words, betrayal is painful, but it's also a test. It forces you to grow, to strengthen your boundaries, and to recognize who truly deserves a place in your life. The pain you feel isn't just suffering, it's a lesson. It's a lesson in self-respect, in detachment, and in letting go of those who were never meant to stay. When someone betrays you, it isn't just about the loss. It's about what the experience teaches you about yourself and your capacity for growth. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A woman I know, let's call her Sarah, had a best friend for over 10 years. They shared everything, secrets, struggles, and victories. But one day Sarah found out that this friend had been speaking behind her back, revealing private conversations, and even sabotaging her opportunities. At first, Sarah was furious. She wanted to confront her, to make her understand what she had done. But instead of reacting with anger or seeking revenge, Sarah chose silence. She didn't argue. She didn't demand an explanation. She simply walked away. No drama, no second chances, just silence. And you know what happened? Her friend felt the silence deeply. She expected a fight, a dramatic scene, but instead she was met with indifference. That silence spoke volumes. So how do you handle betrayal? First, accept that some people will never be who you thought they were. The pain of betrayal often stems from expectation. You believed in them, trusted them, and thought they had your best interest at heart. But the truth is, some people will never meet those expectations, and the pain comes when you realize that. Let it go. Second, don't waste your breath trying to explain their wrongdoing to them. They already know what they've done, even if they won't admit it. Trying to make them see it from your perspective is futile. They're not interested in understanding. They're only interested in defending themselves. Finally, walk away with dignity. Your silence is not weakness, it is strength. At the end of the day, true power is in detachment. A betrayer thrives on reaction, on guilt, on second chances. Don't give them that. Let your silence be a reminder that you were never the one who lost. You were the one they should have never betrayed in the first place. In these moments, remember that betrayal isn't just about the hurt they cause. It's an opportunity to rise above, to preserve your integrity, and to move forward with the knowledge that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's actions but your own. Stay true to yourself and trust that the silence you choose will speak louder than any confrontation ever could. Number 3, when someone insults you. Let's talk about something we all face at some point, insults. Whether it's a snide remark, a backhanded compliment, or an outright attack, insults are designed with one thing in mind: to provoke you. The moment you react, whether it's by arguing back, defending yourself, or even showing anger, you've given the insulter exactly what they wanted: control over your emotions. Here's the truth: responding to insults only gives them power. When someone insults you, they're fishing for a reaction. They want to see you upset, flustered, or even enraged. They want to feel like they've gotten under your skin. But when you refuse to engage, when you remain calm, unshaken, and indifferent, that is when you win. Because nothing frustrates an insulter more than being ignored. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Think about that for a moment. The moment you lower yourself to their level, you've already lost. If they're being petty, cruel, or disrespectful, why give them the satisfaction of seeing you stoop to their game? Instead, take the higher path, the path of silence, self-control, and dignity. Let me share a story to illustrate this point. A guy I know, let's call him David, was at a work event when a coworker, jealous of his recent promotion, decided to take a jab at him in front of others. The coworker smirked and said, "Wow, guess they're handing out promotions to just anyone these days." The room went silent, and everyone waited for David to fire back, to defend himself, or maybe even argue. But instead, David simply smiled, made eye contact, and said nothing. Just silence. No anger, no defense, no argument, just calm and collected composure. And you know what happened? The coworker looked uncomfortable. He had expected a reaction, maybe an argument or some defensive words, but instead, he was left standing there exposed, with his insult hanging in the air, while David kept his power. The truth is, the silence was more powerful than any retort or counterattack. David didn't give the coworker the power to affect his emotions or state of mind. Instead, he maintained his dignity and left the insulter feeling powerless. So, how do you handle insults? First, recognize that insults say more about the person delivering them than they do about you. People who insult others are usually projecting their own insecurities, frustrations, or unhappiness onto someone else. When someone is trying to hurt you with words, it's often because they are struggling internally. Second, understand that your silence is your strength. By not reacting, you show that their words hold no weight in your world. You're showing them that their insults don't define you, and they certainly won't control how you feel. Finally, carry yourself with confidence. When you respond with calm indifference, the insulter is left powerless. You've effectively neutralized their attack. At the end of the day, you can't control what others say, but you can control how you respond. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence is the ultimate proof that their words don't define you. You do. So the next time someone tries to insult you, remember that by choosing silence and self-control, you're taking back the power. You're showing the world that their words will never dictate your peace or self-worth. Number 4, when they play the victim. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating and manipulative behaviors. People who play the victim. You know the type. The ones who twist the story, conveniently leave out their own actions, and make it seem like they were the ones wronged. No matter what actually happened, what matters to them is how they can gain sympathy, shift the blame, and make others see you as the problem. The more you try to defend yourself, the more you look like the villain. It's a game, and they're playing it to perfection. Here's the truth. Some people don't want resolution. They want attention. They don't care about honesty or fairness. Their goal isn't to fix the situation, it's to control the narrative. They want to steer the story in a way that benefits them and places all the blame on you. If you engage, if you argue, explain, or try to prove your side, you're playing right into their hands. You're feeding the drama, and that only makes their position stronger. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "To complain is always non-productive and never appropriate." And that applies perfectly here. When someone plays the victim, they're not looking for solutions. They're looking for an audience. They want attention and sympathy, not resolution. The best way to handle this situation is to let karma expose their manipulation, because the truth always comes out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually people start to see patterns. They begin to notice how this person always seems to be the victim in every situation. They'll catch on to the manipulation and the lies. That's when the act starts to fall apart. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, had a co-worker who was a master at playing the victim. Whenever Rachel confronted her about something, this co-worker would twist the situation and say things like, "I can't believe you'd accuse me of that. I would never hurt anyone." She made sure to cry in front of the right people, always painting Rachel as the bad guy. At first, Rachel tried to defend herself. She explained the facts, showed proof, and even tried to have a logical conversation. But the more she tried, the worse it got. The co-worker thrived on the drama, turning every response into more proof that she was being attacked and victimized. Rachel realized she was getting nowhere and decided to try something different. She went silent. No more defending herself, no more reacting to the manipulations. She simply let time and the truth reveal themselves. And sure enough, it did. Over time, others started noticing the same patterns. The co-worker played the victim one too many times, and people began to stop believing her. Her manipulation tactics, which once worked to her advantage, became obvious. Eventually, her credibility crumbled, and the narrative shifted. So how do you handle someone who plays the victim? First, don't argue. The more you try to prove yourself, the more you feed their story and their narrative. Second, stay calm and detached. Let their own behavior expose them for what they are. Finally, trust karma. People who constantly manipulate and twist the truth will always reveal themselves in time. At the end of the day, silence is your power. Let them talk, let them spin their version, let them play their game. Because in the end, the truth doesn't need your defense. Time will do that for you. The more you stay silent and detached, the more the truth reveals itself and the less power they'll have over you. Number 5, when they ignore your worth. Let's talk about one of the most painful yet important lessons in life, being undervalued. Whether it's in relationships, friendships, or even at work, there comes a moment when you realize that someone isn't seeing your worth. You give support, you show up, you put in the effort, but instead of appreciation, you get indifference. Instead of respect, you get taken for granted. The natural instinct is to fight for their recognition, to prove your value, to make them see your worth. But here's the truth. Begging for recognition only lowers your value. The more you chase, the less they respect you. People don't appreciate what's always available. They don't value what they believe they'll never lose. And that's why silence is your greatest weapon. When you stop proving, stop chasing, and stop trying to make them see your worth, something shifts. Suddenly, they feel the absence of what they took for granted. Silence forces them to see what they lost. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth." And that's exactly what happens when you walk away with dignity. The truth reveals itself, not through words, not through arguments, but through absence. The people who truly valued you will notice, and the ones who didn't, they were never meant to stay. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A man I know, let's call him Jake, was always the one making the effort in his relationships. Whether it was with friends or coworkers, he was the person who checked in, who showed up, who made people feel valued. But over time, Jake began to notice something. The effort was one-sided. If he didn't reach out, days, even weeks would pass without a word. If he didn't initiate, no one did. That's when it hit him. He wasn't being valued. He was being taken for granted. He was convenient. Jake then made a choice. He stopped chasing. No dramatic exits, no angry speeches, just silence. He stopped reaching out. And you know what happened? The people who truly cared about him reached out. The ones who only saw him as an option disappeared. That was his answer, and it was a powerful one. So how do you handle being undervalued? First, stop explaining your worth. Your value doesn't decrease just because someone refuses to see it. You don't have to justify your importance or make excuses for your presence in their life. Second, step back and observe. The right people won't need reminders to appreciate you. They will make the effort to keep you close without you having to beg for their attention or recognition. Finally, let time do the work. When you walk away in silence, you give others the opportunity to realize what they've lost. Time will reveal the truth, and when you give someone space to understand your absence, that's when they start to see your true worth. At the end of the day, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. If someone can't see your value while you're there, let them experience your absence. Sometimes the only way people learn to value you is when they no longer have access to you. They will either appreciate your absence or they won't. And if they don't, that's their loss. You're not here to chase validation from anyone. And when you stop seeking it, you give others the chance to truly understand what they had. If you've watched this video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a thank God and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 6, when they try to provoke you. Let's talk about one of the most powerful forms of self-control: not reacting when someone tries to provoke you. We've all encountered people who thrive on conflict. They poke, they prod, they say things just to get under your skin. The moment you react, whether it's through anger, frustration, or defensiveness, you've given them exactly what they wanted: control over your emotions. Here's the truth: people who seek conflict aren't looking for resolution. They're looking for a reaction. They want to see you flustered, upset, or out of character. These individuals feed off your emotional energy because it gives them a sense of power. They want to destabilize you, to disrupt your peace and watch you lose control. But when you refuse to engage, when you stay calm, collected, and indifferent, that is the ultimate power move. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment. You can't control how others behave. You can't stop people from trying to provoke you, but you have absolute control over whether or not you let them affect your state of mind. And when you master that, when you choose not to let others rattle you, you become untouchable. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A guy I know, let's call him Adam, had a co-worker who loved stirring up drama. Every meeting, every interaction, this co-worker would throw out little jabs, trying to get a rise out of Adam. At first, Adam would defend himself, argue back, and try to explain himself. But over time, he realized something. No matter what he said, it only made things worse. His reactions fueled the fire, and the more he engaged, the more this co-worker would push his buttons. One day, Adam decided to try something different. The next time his co-worker threw a jab, Adam simply smiled, gave a calm nod, and moved on as if it didn't matter. And guess what happened? The co-worker hated it. He kept trying, but without the reaction he wanted, he eventually lost interest. The power shift was profound. Adam didn't need to defend himself, didn't need to fight back. He just refused to engage, and that ended the cycle. So how do you handle people who try to provoke you? First, recognize their game. If someone consistently tries to get under your skin, it's not an accident, it's a pattern. They want to see you react. Second, stay calm and detached. Your silence and indifference will frustrate them far more than any argument or emotional outburst could. By not reacting, you deny them the satisfaction they crave. And finally, remember that true strength isn't in reacting, it's in controlling your own mind. At the end of the day, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who yells the loudest or argues the hardest. It's the one who refuses to be controlled by anyone else's negativity. When you ignore those who seek to provoke you, you deny them the power they're trying to steal from you. You take back control, and that right there is real power. It's the ability to remain unshaken, no matter how hard they try to rattle you. When you master this, you'll realize that the most powerful response is often no response at all. Number 7, when they regret losing you. Let's talk about one of the most powerful lessons in life: walking away and letting someone feel the weight of their own choices. When someone mistreats you, takes you for granted, or fails to appreciate you, there comes a moment when they realize what they've lost. But by then, it's already too late. Here's the truth: if someone truly valued you, they wouldn't have put themselves in a position to lose you in the first place. People don't always recognize your worth when you're there, when you're available, when your presence is consistent. But the moment you're gone, the silence becomes deafening. That's when regret sinks in. That's when they start replaying every mistake, every moment they could have done better, every opportunity they missed to treat you the way you deserved. This is why silence is the best response. You don't need to argue, explain, or remind them of what they lost. Let them sit with the consequences. Let them feel the absence of what they once had but failed to appreciate. Because when you truly walk away, with no words, no second chances, no maybe later energy, your absence does all the talking. It speaks louder than anything you could say, louder than any confrontation or explanation. Your silence forces them to face the truth. They lost something valuable, and it's too late to fix it. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That means true strength isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. It's about having the discipline to walk away from those who didn't value you, and the wisdom to never look back. Because real power isn't in chasing, it's in knowing when to stop giving your energy to people who never deserved it in the first place. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A woman I know, let's call her Olivia, was in a long-term relationship where she constantly felt unappreciated. She gave everything, her time, her love, her support, but her partner took it all for granted. He assumed she would always be there, and in doing so, he failed to recognize how valuable she truly was. Then one day, Olivia made the difficult but necessary decision to leave. She didn't yell, didn't beg, didn't threaten. She simply walked away. There were no dramatic exits, no long explanations. It was all done in silence. At first, her partner thought she was bluffing, that she'd come back like she always did. But weeks turned into months, and slowly the realization began to set in. She wasn't coming back. By the time he reached out, full of apologies and regret, Olivia had already moved on, and that was when he truly felt the loss. So how do you handle someone who regrets losing you? First, don't give them an easy way back. If they only appreciate you after you're gone, then they never truly valued you to begin with. Second, don't explain your absence. Let them wonder and feel the weight of your absence. Let them struggle with the consequences of their own actions. And finally, remember that real self-respect is knowing when to walk away and actually staying gone. The best lesson you can teach someone is that once you're gone, you're gone. At the end of the day, the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away with dignity and let the other person feel their own regret. Their regret is not your responsibility, and their lesson is not your burden. Walk away, stay silent, and let karma do the rest. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights.